We were treated unfairly, to some extent, like guinea pigs. The damage done by the Tuskegee study is much deeper than the wounds any of us may have suffered. It speaks to our faith in government and the ability of medical science to serve as a force for good.
It's understandable the mistrust that many black people have because of what happened in Tuskegee. The tragic syphilis study, I heard about it just like the rest of the nation did in the summer of 1972 when I was running for mayor of Tuskegee. I made a statement and I took this as my platform. Elect me mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, and never again will we allow the federal government, the state government, or any other governmental body to come into Tuskegee, Alabama and take advantage of our people. That was my platform, and I meant it. What was so mean and cruel about this study is the fact that the federal government discovered that penicillin would indeed cure syphilis. Yet the federal government would not administer the penicillin to a group of 600 black men because they wanted the men to stay untreated in the study until they died so that they could complete the autopsy. Now, how cold your government doing something like that? But there is no reason in 2021 for any American to say that I'm not going to take the vaccine because of what happened in Tuskegee. In this day and time, black scientists, black doctors are involved in the development of the vaccine. They are involved in helping to shape the public policy, which makes it possible for this vaccination program to be administered to the American people. That's why I wanted everyone to see me taking the shot. I wanted my friends who doubted to see that I was not afraid to take the shot. Miss Diane Robinson may have had some reservations, but she made the decision to take it. Miss Johnny Harrison, a young lady who's 84 years young, retired teacher, had some reservations, but she took it. Virginia Peterson, a descendant of Lewis Adams, the man who brought Booker T. Washington here to Tuskegee. Orrin Gorin, who's originally from Trinidad but lives here in Tuskegee, Alabama, grew up in New York. Not only did he decide, but some of his buddies, he's tried to convince them to take it. Alton Mitchell, who works for the local Tuskegee News, has decided to certainly take it. We are proud people. Tuskegee, Alabama is actually loaded with history. We're proud of our history. John Lewis talked about good trouble. Fighting racism, fighting hunger, fighting inadequate health care, fighting COVID. It's a war, and you have to fight it just like you would fight any other war. I'm willing to go to jail. I'm willing to die for it. I'm willing to struggle for it because it is right. The struggle goes on.
But my beats, they are hard.
Hello and welcome to the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Fulford and A.D. Drew here. Episode number 2, season number 5. And we are planning to put a bow on sort of the preseason media day look-aheads that we've experienced. If you caught our show, I guess by now, Drew, it's been probably a week or so, week and a half. You caught our preview of the SWAC and the CIAA as well as the OVC. Well, in this episode, we'll make sure to cover not only the SIAC, but the Big South and the MEAC. Drew, how you doing, my man?
Doing fine, my brother. How you doing?
I'm enjoying the fact that we got football, and it's a beautiful, beautiful time of the year. That preseason buzz, trying to get all the ducks in order, man. Trying to make sure and figure out where we're going. I got to I'll tell you what really has been sort of a thing that has really been taking a lot of my time is working on this BCSN pod zone. And I'm going to give you all the credit for this because this was sort of your vision. I mean, I think I had a similar idea, but you're the one who kind of brought it home to me about basically all of our shows. For example, this show, obviously our show appears separately, on all the, everywhere you can listen to podcasts. I was actually just kind of checking it out just to make sure we are still in everywhere we say we are. And then you were like, hey, what if we put all of the shows that we have in one location? So that way, if somebody wanted to bounce from one show to the next, they could easily. And so that was the creation of the BCSN Pod Zone. Of course, we've got our show. We've got Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, the pregame show. Then we brought in Carlos Brown show. And that's sort of where it started. And I know, then eventually we brought in Brave Talk with Charles Edmond. Charles Edmond, of course, the voice of Alcorn State athletics. So, he puts together some great conversations with some people there. Coming up later in the fall, we've got Nights at the Round Table. So it's just like we can kind of put everything in one nice little spot for people. And it really that is I'm not gonna lie, it's time consuming, but hopefully you enjoy it. So, and I just kind of made sure that now, originally that was on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast. We should be on iHeartRadio. We should be on Apple Podcasts. So I encourage you, go check out the BCSN Pod Zone. That's the aggregate of all of the shows, the Black College Sports Network, Podcast Network, all of the shows that we do in one location. Of course, you can always find our show separately in that place. And then want to encourage you, go download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. My JBN, my BCSN. Go check out the app. You'll get alerts for all of these shows. So I think we just continue to try to put our platform in many places. There's no one place that everybody watches. We got people who watch on YouTube. We got people who watch on Facebook. I think the more places we can put our stuff, Drew, the better off we will be. So thank you for
More
that idea.
eyes equals a larger prize.
More eyes and more ears, the better, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. And you know, hopefully you guys will drop a little coffee in the bucket. You know, go to you know, obviously you'll see the ad come up, I'm sure, at some point here, but you can go to
First one in the queue.
myjbn.com/support. Okay. Right. You know, so go and support the Black College Sports Network, dropping a little cup of coffee, you know, in the tank. We appreciate it. So all right, Drew. Well, we got to get through. We got a tight show and a tight window. We want to try to get this done. It's very odd for us to try to say we're going to get as much done in an hour as we can, but that is our goal, right, Drew?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's kind of start with a few news and notes items that are occurring. And obviously, we're recording this just on the heels of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the big weekend. Really, it was almost like a 4-day celebration for not only the class of 2021, but you had the centennial class of 2020 who did not have an opportunity to have their enshrinement ceremonies last year due to COVID. So within that class, you know, for me personally, as a Colts fan, it was pretty cool seeing Edgerrin James and Peyton Manning. I know for you as a Rams fan, you got to see your boy Isaac Bruce go in. Anybody else from the Rams go in that you were kind of excited to see?
Not in this class.
Not in this class? Okay. So really, other than Isaac Bruce, you had him.
But I will say we had an HBCU player or two go in.
Well, yeah. Definitely, I was going to make mention of that. Yeah, we had a few of those guys go in. That's where I was going. So we had 3 HBCU representatives go in. You had Harold Carmichael, Southern University grad with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was part of the class of 2021 or 20, excuse me. Donnie Shell from South Carolina State. Became the 4th South Carolina State Bulldog to enter the Hall of Fame. Of course, he enters with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Probably one of the last big names, kind of one of the last names that were left off. That's part of the Steelers. What? The Steel Curtain defense. And then, of course, you had Bill Nunn, who was a part of the class of 2021, who went in as I believe, a contributor. That was more of the 8-man class. He went into the Hall of Fame. Of course, he's the scout who, from 1964, I believe, until about maybe 2014, he was a scout for the Steelers. So many HBCU players are credited by being discovered by Bill Nunn, including Donnie Shell, who undrafted. And so, you know, what was interesting, Drew, for Carmichael and Shell, there were 2 guys who I believe I read a story in, I believe it was in the Advocate down in Baton Rouge. It took Harold Carmichael almost 40 years since he finished his playing career. Or no, let me say, it may have actually the other way around. It may have taken Shell 40 years. It took Carmichael 30. Either way, you know, the guys, you know, it's so hard getting into the Hall of Fame. You know, Carmichael was a receiver, and, you know, he was a big receiver, but he came up in the 80s when the game was totally different. You know, that game was more of a running game. He was on some teams with the Philadelphia Eagles that, you know, be honest, in his first half of his career, those probably weren't good teams with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Nope.
So, you know, even though he was on a part of the all-decade team from, I believe, the 70s, Yeah, he was on the 70s all-decade second team. He had to go up against guys like Drew Pearson, who, matter of fact, just got in the class of 2021. Lynn Swan, Stallworth, Paul Warfield. I mean, guys who were on teams that were a little more glamorous than the Philadelphia Eagles. So he kind of got lost in the shuffle, and thanks to this centennial team of trying to find guys who maybe what they call slip through the cracks, not only did Donnie Shell find his way into the Hall of Fame, but so did Carmichael. And we could go through this. You could go through the accolades for Donnie Shell. I mean, here's a guy who he was. Let's see where I was looking for here. Well, I had it pulled up here, but of course, Shell. I think he finished with the most interceptions as part of that Steelers secondary. In his Hall of Fame speech, I thought it was really well prepared to hear Donnie Shell talk about the influence of Willie Jeffries and how Willie Jeffries sort of prepared him to be able to make the Pittsburgh Steelers as an undrafted free agent, because Willie Jeffries had guys believing they could do anything, and that's what he did. And so it was a very cool moment for HBCUs to see Carmichael, to see Shell get in, and then, of course, to see Bill Nunn, a writer for the Pittsburgh Courier, this longtime scout. He's one of those names that are just mentioned as one of the goats of scouting and who he was able to find for teams. It makes you wonder it makes you wonder if we'll ever have another Bill Nunn type scout. Any thoughts you want to share on the Hall of Fame weekend, Drew?
No, but just one thought I want to give. Now we've gone back and got two former HBCU players into the Hall who don't deserve to be there. Next one from HBCU realms that needs to get to the Hall, and I'm not just saying this because he graduated from the university that you and I went to, is Ken Riley. He should be the next HBCU player to get into the Hall.
Yeah, no, the stats. Matter of fact,
I think he's still like number 3 all time.
I just saw something. He's number 5 all time.
Oh, he's dropped.
Yeah, well, but the thing about Ken Riley is he's ahead of Charles Woodson, who just went in the class of 2021.
Correct.
So there's no. Look, they have a veterans committee for a reason. It's sad that Ken Riley is no longer with us and won't be able to sort of receive his flowers, as the kids like to say. But he's the next guy who deserves to get in. And what's funny? More and more people are starting to recognize that. I have a feeling, Drew, 2022 might be the year Riley gets in. I think more and more people are recognizing he's moved to that top of the list of guys who have gotten left off, guys who are sort of getting passed over, and it's just hard with the numbers. But I think he's that next guy. So I would not be surprised if in 2022 we see Ken Riley be recognized for his accomplishments with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Correct.
So, yeah, that's a good week. Again, congratulations to the Bill Nunn family, Donnie Shell's family, Harold Carmichael, Southern University, South Carolina State. Well-deserved. Well-deserved. You guys make sure you show some love to those. I think Donnie Shell now, Drew, we were charting this back when we were doing the 50. I think Donnie Shell is now the only HBCU legend. I got to be careful how I say this. He is in the MEAC Hall of Fame, the College Football Hall of Fame, the Black College Football Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Am I missing any Hall of Fames? I think there may only be one other person that's in as many, or he might be the only one.
And I'm pretty sure he's in his high school Hall of Fame too.
Right, and I'm sure the South Carolina State Hall of Fame as well. So
Yes.
in terms of every athletic Hall of Fame, he might be in there. I would have to go digging to see who else might be in that sort of category with him. But I think Donnie Shell might be the most decorated HBCU athlete. I don't know. That's one of those questions we'll have to kind of look up, and maybe if you know that question, if you know the answer, who is the most decorated HBCU athlete? Send us a tweet, send us a message at MyBCSN1, the number 1, or send Drew and I a message on Twitter and let us know if you have an idea, if you've done the research. I know we did the research, and we might be forgetting somebody, but I got a feeling if it's not, it's somebody out of it might be one other person from the MEAC. I'd be interested to see if anybody comes up with somebody from the SWAC. And so again, what we're talking about is covering all of the Hall of Fames. Is there somebody that is so recognized everywhere? And I think the first, I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll like to see what people come up with. Let me move over to another news and notes items, Drew. The Walter Payton Award preseason watch list came out by Stats FCS, or more so now, I forgot what they're actually going with now as their name. I think they're no longer Stats FCS. I think they've kind of changed their name a little bit. But anyway, they are the group that awards they've been Craig Haley. They've been recognized in covering FCS football. Obviously, the Walter Payton Award is sort of like the Heisman of FCS, or 1AA football, as it used to be called. Of course, the Buck Buchanan Award goes to the defensive player. That one, Jordan Lewis won this past spring. But of the 35 players on the preseason watch list, only 4 guys from out of the HBCU realm. 3 of them are quarterbacks. You had Jawan Carter of Norfolk State. Of course, Aquiel Glass of Alabama A&M, who was a finalist this past spring for the Payton Award. Felix Harper of Alcorn State, who was a finalist for the award in 2019. And then you had Jamaine Martin, a running back from North Carolina A&T, who was a 2019 finalist. So, question for you, Drew. Are we underrepresented in an award that is named after an HBCU player? And I'll even take this step going towards the Buck Buchanan Award. Are we underrepresented? Are we making too big a deal about being underrepresented in an award list that is named after an HBCU player?
How many people are on the list again?
35 on the preseason watch list, 4 HBCU players.
So we have a 35. We've got about 12%, 12%. I think that's a fair representation. What would scare me is if you looked at the total number of African American candidates on that list and see if we are underrepresented overall as a class of people or a class of athletes. But we've got 21, 22 teams out of how many FCS teams are there?
I believe there are about 130 something FCS teams. We've got 22. We did this the other day. 22, I think it is.
Correct. So when you look at those numbers, we're right about where we should be.
Yeah. The last time, I was just trying to see if I could pull up here quickly. The last time that an HBCU player won this award. You care to take a stab at the last time? Should be real easy to think about.
What, did somebody win it last year?
No.
The last football year we had.
No, that was the Buck Buchanan Award defense.
All right, I knew we had an HBCU player won one of those major awards.
Right. Offensively, though, this should be real easy. You got to just
Steve
go back
McNair.
to when we were in college. Yes,
Steve
yes,
McNair.
there you go. Exactly.
As soon as you
Steve
said
McNair.
offense.
Right. Well, it's an offensive award. Right. Before him was Walter Dean in 1990. He was a running back. So this award started in 1987. So you go all the way up to 2020. Now, the young man who was the award winner last year from out of southeastern Louisiana, he's back for another year. I'll ask you this question. Do you think that when they get down to the finalists, I personally expect Glass, Harper, Martin to all be there. Any other names that you can think of that might end up in that finalist category? I think when they get to the finalists, I think it gets down to maybe about a dozen guys, maybe 10 guys.
Right.
Any other names that you can think of that might actually find their way onto this list?
I'm going to go contrary to you. Either Glass or Harper will not be there. Both will not be there.
Oh, wow. Really? Why do you say that?
I think whoever wins their head-to-head matchup is going to be the person on the list. Do they play head-to-head this year? Before I just say that. But I think we're going to get one of those two players.
Do they play this year? As I'm going through my grid sheet, no, we do not get a
disregard everything
Alabama
I just said,
A&M.
unless they beat in the championship game.
Right. That's where it would have to happen. It would have to happen in the SWAC championship game.
Right. I do think Jermaine Martin will be there.
You think Martin will be there?
Definitely.
I'm interested about Carter. I think, looking at his progression, he's never passed for over 3,000 yards in a season. He was on a slow build from his sophomore to junior year, which was 2019. And I think he's played in a lot of games. I think he played in about 10 games of 11 during his sophomore year starting. Played in 12. Actually played in 12 games as a junior. But it'll be interesting to see if the Dawson Odom's offense allows for his passing numbers to go up. But I don't know. It's tough for me to try to see who might get added into that list. Could somebody like Xavier Smith at Florida A&M, who he's an All-American, preseason All-American.
Depends on who his quarterback is.
Yeah. It might be hard for a receiver. I mean, look, we thought remember the year of Chris Rowland?
Yes.
Rowland of Tennessee State. Now, I thought he got screwed. That would have been 2018, I believe.
19.
It was one of those 2 years, 19 or 18, right? 19 it might have been. Yeah, he got screwed. He got screwed. In my opinion, the man broke Jerry Rice's record. He was leading the nation. I still don't understand how he didn't win the award that year. But anyway, I know he was a finalist, but I still don't understand how he didn't win the award. But I guess his team, let's be real, his team was about a 500 team that year. So that probably
not
contributed.
Quite about.
Right. About. At. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I have to do some digging on that. We'll have to do some thinking and see whether somebody else might fill in and might make an appearance on that Walter Payton Award list. You guys out there, let us know if you have some candidates that might end up being part of I'll say by mid-season. If you guys have some people that you think might be on the mid-season or even the end of the year list, let us know. Let us know if you got some names that we should be looking out for. One final news and notes, Drew. Benedict College taking on Kentucky State in the Circle City Classic.
Hey, Brian, before you get in that one, because I know this was going to be a long rant.
No, it's not going to be a long rant.
You sure?
Not at all. Huh?
You sure?
What's long?
See, you stuttered. It's going to be a long rant.
No. How much time you going to give me?
I was going to get into two other stories before we go into that one.
All right, go ahead. I'll let you jump. Go ahead. Jump the gun. Go ahead. Two other stories.
Right.
Go ahead. Fire away.
If you happen to catch the pregame show earlier today, today being Monday, so this would be yesterday by the time this comes out, Deion Sanders has a documentary come out, Coach Prime, which is Barstool Sports, and they are chronicling that first season of Jackson State football. Go to the pregame show to find out more information on this documentary that'll be coming out at the end of the month on YouTube, and where to watch it and the links and everything else. So please go to our sister podcast, The Pregame Show. We debuted the trailer this morning.
All right.
And one last one, non-football related. Kwanzaa Murray signed an overseas contract with, let me make sure I get the team, Brunel of the Ireland Super League. Is former basketball player for the Lincoln Lions, Lady Lions in Pennsylvania. So congratulations to Kwanzaa Murray.
All right. And what school does she go to again? Let people.
Lincoln of PA.
Okay.
All right. So let's do this break before you go on your rant.
Oh, then you're gonna push me to a break. Oh, we're not.
It's because it's called a tease.
I see what you did.
We'll
sneak it in at the end of the show. That's all right, because I know it's a tight window. I see what you did. You pushed my rant to the side. That's fine.
It's called a tease.
We got a lot to do, so I don't want to waste our time ranting about the Circle City Classic. So let's take a break. We come back. We're gonna get into the SIAC, the MEAC, and the Big South. And then maybe if time allows, Drew will let me get into my rant about the Circle City Classic coming up on season number 36, coming up this fall, featuring Benedict and Kentucky State. If nothing else, I gave you that info, but I got a better rant about that a little bit later. So let's take a break, come back, get into these media days from these HBCU conferences, SIAC, MEAC, and Big South. Well, yeah, we'll talk about Hampton and North Carolina A&T in the Big South. We'll do that. So coming up after the break, you're watching the SportsWrap, Bryan and A.D. We'll be back right after these words. Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports
Tell everybody
Network.
they can follow their dreams.
Both of my great-grandfathers have been a part of that study. My roots in environmental health come from my great-grandfathers. They were sharecroppers, and then later they were able to own land for their family for generations to come. My ancestors' connection to the land has given me a strong care for our environment and how that environment influences human health. I am a fierce advocate for equitable treatment for all. The ways in which COVID-19 ravaged Black communities showed that we have underlying vulnerabilities when something like a pandemic hits. The path from tragedy to triumph travels along the path of learning.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your fam.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and A.D. here. Make sure to download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app on your, just go to your Google or Apple Play Store. My JBN, My BCSN is the search, and download that app. And that's where you can download and be up to date with all of our shows across our streaming platforms. Not just sports. There's other stuff out there as well, some other types of shows. So the Jericho Broadcast Networks, we do more than sports over there. But if you are a sports head, then you have to make sure you're a part of the BCSN Pod Zone, available everywhere you download and listen to podcasts. Not only will you hear our show, you'll hear the Carlos Brown show, you will hear the pregame show, you'll hear the O&G Strike Zone, brand new podcast dedicated to covering Florida A&M University athletics. You hear Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab and all the stuff they do. Brave Talk with Charles Edmond covering Alcorn State. Soon to be coming, the BJ Jones Show. I mean, we're putting together a nice little lineup, Drew, where
don't forget the pregame show.
I did, but we can give them another plug. The pregame show, Jackson State University. So whether it's just general
what about your new show?
I mention the O&G Strike Zone? I did.
Okay.
Yeah, the O&G Strike Zone. We'll give it another plug covering Florida A&M. So whether it's school-specific, school-related, or general topic, we're covering all angles, and more will be coming. So just stay tuned with us. Okay, so let's get into talking a little bit about the SIAC, and then we'll transition over into the FCS with the MEAC and Big South. So one of the first things I thought, Drew, that came out of the SIAC Media Day, and it was actually what took place before the preseason Media Day, was the announcement that the SIAC was going to mandate that all athletes and staff members are required to be fully vaccinated to participate in SIAC-sponsored events. And so I believe they are still, as of, that came out sometime about late July. Here we are going into the second week of August. I believe they're still the only conference that mandates or is mandating something of that to that effect. Do you, to the best of your knowledge, that sound about correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so this was something that came down from Commissioner Gregory Moore. And, you shouldn't be surprised at this, because this was the conference home of Morehouse College, the first school to actually make the decision back in 2020, I believe. April or March or somewhere, or April or May.
June.
Okay. Yes, you're right. Yeah. That they said, no, we don't see a turn in this COVID, and we're not going to play any athletics whatsoever in the upcoming 2021 school year. And then, of course, right after Morehouse made that decision,
The rest of the
I
conference
think there
follows
were
suit.
right. The rest of the conference follows suit. You saw the Ivy Leagues do something similar.
CIAA.
So yeah, CIAA. So just so the league maintained. Let's see, whatever within the this is a quote from Gregory Moore. Within the context of rising COVID-19 infection rates, student athletes are a particularly vulnerable stakeholder group who, as a result of their athletic participation, are required to travel off campus and compete against and interact with college athletes on other campuses. These athletic-related activities not only increase the risk of exposure to our student athletes, but also increase the risk of exposure to their classmates and other campus stakeholders once those athletes return to campus. What are your thoughts on this one, Drew? Because I do applaud the conference for sort of taking a stance. Whether I agree in that statement, I understand where it's coming from, but just in general, are you surprised? Here we are, conferences like the SWAC coming out and saying that they want everybody vaccinated, or you run the risk of forfeiting games. What's your thought on the SIAC stance to sort of mandate something like this from everybody?
They are walking a fine line and a very fine tightrope.
How so?
Legally, can you mandate this? And this is not just for the SIAC. This is something that's going on throughout all of society. Someone, somewhere, maybe not the SIAC, but somewhere, somebody is going to get this thing into court. Can you mandate that I have to take this vaccine? And it's this specific vaccine. Because we all know you've got to have certain shots before you go to kindergarten. You've got to have certain shots before you go to middle school, high school, etc., etc. So, but this particular vaccine, can you mandate it? Especially when it is still, keep this in mind, on an emergency basis, has not been fully cleared by the FDA.
Yeah.
So, and I think that may have something to do with some possible legal maneuvering people could do, because it's not 100% in by the FDA. It's still an emergency usage stage.
You're real connected to different schools within the SIC. What are you hearing about? Is there any pushback? Do you have room? Do you have time to push back? I mean, you're a month away from the start of your season. What's the vibe from your people that you've spoken to about this?
From the couple of people I've spoken to, thus far, it's not a big pushback. But what happens when that team's quarterback, one of those teams you expect to finish in first or second place or to contend in the SIAC, pushes back for whatever reason? Or B, they cannot take the vaccine because there's still a small class of people who want to take the vaccine but cannot for health reasons or religious reasons. So where does that leave, first of all, that individual, that relationship with the individual and the coach, the individual and their institution? You know, there's a lot that can go into it. I hope we don't get to that point, but you have to consider the what if.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the season goes for the SIC. I don't know if that means there shouldn't be any cancellations, you know.
And how would they
this
attack
upcoming
that?
year?
How are they going to attack that?
Yeah.
We already know the policy from the SWAC.
Right.
And
right.
But the SWAC policy is if it's player related, multiple players get it, you got to send them out. No one has answered the question, what happens if a city says you can't play football here or you can't travel? Like, let's take Howard last year.
Yeah.
Howard could not go to South Carolina State. South Carolina State could not go to Howard. But Howard could go to Dale State. So, what happens if we get into that situation again?
Yeah, let's pray that doesn't happen. I think we're too far
COVID.
down the road. Go ahead.
One other thing about COVID. I saw this on the news program over the weekend. I'm not going to say which one I was watching. But they showed the map with the states that have had like 150 and above % increase in COVID over the last 2 weeks. I looked at that map. Huh? I'm going to tell you what those are. If you took that map and took the SWAC map, it was identical except for one state. And that state was Missouri, because Missouri is not in the SWAC. Other than that, every other SWAC state was on that map. And just like the SWAC map skips the state of Georgia, that map skipped the state of Georgia.
What did it look like in the footprint of the? Well, the footprint of the SIAC is not too dissimilar.
The footprint of the SIAC is very similar, except for Georgia.
Well, you know what? I got a feeling Georgia's not reporting. I have a feeling Georgia may not be reporting numbers. I don't know that to be true, but
I live here. It would not surprise me.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Because talking to a few healthcare officials that I know here in the community where I live,
yeah,
it's very underreported.
Yeah, that's so. I wouldn't be surprised. I know they do something similar down here in Florida, but I
guess it just got so bad it didn't matter no more without there.
Yeah. Hey, watch out now.
Well, they on the map. That's why I said that.
I got you. Let's go through the predicted order. Finish some headlines or just some things to kind of toss out there. Predicted order finish: the Eastern Division, Savannah State, Albany State, Fort Valley State. That's your 1, 2, 3. Followed by Morehouse at 4, Benedict 5, Clark Atlanta 6. Now Edward Waters and Allen are 7 and 8, but neither can compete this year for the division or in the NCAA tournament or playoffs rather. The Western Division made up of I think I'm forgetting somebody too. I got Miles, Tuskegee, Kentucky State, Central State, and Lane.
Yes, it's
that's
5
your
and
1,
6.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting, Drew, there are 4 new coaches in the SIAC who actually were supposed to make their debut in 2020, but due to COVID, the shutdown, they didn't get that opportunity. You've got Sheenus Berry at Benedict College, Bobby Rome II at Central State, Maurice Flowers at Fort Valley State, and Byron Brown at Lane. And then you've also got Toriano Morgan, who was hired this past summer at Edward Waters. And so essentially you've got 5 new coaches of your 13. And then really, if you combine the class of 2019, which consisted of Sean Quinn at Savannah State, Tim Bowens at Clark, Charlie Jackson at Kentucky State, that moves your total to
8.
Do the math. What's that?
8?
So, yeah. So over half of your conference
8 of the 13.
That's over half of the 8 of the 13. Well said. That's first or second year head coaches. And then of course you got the legends in there. You got the GOATs. You've got Willie Slater at Tuskegee since 2006. Is that correct?
Correct.
Rich Freeman at Morehouse since 2007, and then Reginald Ruffin at Miles since like 2010, I believe.
and he was on Slater's staff when at Tuskegee.
What any thoughts about when you think about the newness, the lack of experience? Is there anything you can draw from that? The fact, especially the guys who had the year off. I mean, there are guys who were hired that really kind of had to sit on pins and needles for a year just to get their first game under their belt. Can you draw anything from that 8 of 13 being first or second year head coaches?
Well, let's take some of those first. Well, they're in their second year now, but what did some of those coaches do in their first year? Well, Sean Quinn had the best record in the East at Savannah State.
7-13.
Huh?
They're 7-3. 7-3, right?
Yeah. What did Kentucky State do? They only
Charlie
beat
Jackson,
a couple
7-3.
FCS programs.
Yeah, went from winless to 7-3.
So just because these coaches are in their first or their second year does not mean they are neophytes and learning on the fly. Don't know what they're doing. So you've got 5 coaches this year, correct?
5 newbies, yeah. 5 first-year coaches.
Okay.
Head coaches.
So based on the numbers, 2 of those coaches are going to make some noise. Which 2 coaches are going to make some noise, Brian?
Well, if you ask me which 2, you might want to say Fort Valley State.
I agree.
You know, they're ranked, they're preseason number 3.
And keep in mind, Fort Valley came within the quarterback getting hurt in the Albany State game from being the SIAC representative.
Right. And that coach, I believe he's now on Miles' staff, and the name escapes me right at the moment, from Fort Valley's former head coach. He's now over at Miles as the offensive coordinator over there. The other team I would go with, Drew, is maybe Bobby Rome over at Central State. They made some improvements to their field, playing on field turf over there. You know, I've kind of heard some of the press or some of the video clips and the audio messaging from out of Central State and Bobby Rome. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Central State plays now with sort of a new environment, a new field, and everything there that should hopefully maybe inject some life into that program. Cedric Pearl, former coach over there. Actually, that's who I'm thinking about. I think Cedric Pearl is now over at Miles. Cedric Pearl, the former coach at Central State, is now over at Miles. That's who I'm thinking of.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
Brian,
my 2.
Speaking of new fields, Central State, did you hear the quote Willie Slater said about keeping up with the Joneses, basically in the SIAC?
Well, they have to. Yeah. They. I think we talked about this as it relates to their schedule, and the fact that Tuskegee in their schedule are playing. I'm gonna pull up their grid here. Tuskegee's playing. Let's see. Do we have it here?
They've got the.
They're playing out.
They got the Classic on Labor Day, which is the Red Tails Classic.
Right.
They're playing.
Right. Okay.
And that's against Fort Valley. They're playing Alabama A&M at the end of September in Mobile. I believe that's the Gulf Shores Classic.
Okay. Yep.
They've got Alabama State. They're going back to the Turkey Classic, giving up the chance for the Division II playoffs. And you throw in the fact that the Tuskegee Morehouse Classic has moved from Columbus, Georgia to Birmingham, Alabama because of a larger guarantee.
Yeah.
And why all these classics? Why all this moving around? Plain and simple. And Coach Slater said, MONEY. Everybody's getting new toys. We need some new toys too. We've got to upgrade our facilities.
Yeah, Tuskegee has fallen behind in the arms race that everyone else seems to be, taking advantage of. And so, how long do you continue to lose out to the other schools in the SIAC, especially Miles, what's the distance between Miles and Tuskegee?
2 hours.
So, you probably lost out on some guys who 10 years ago would have gone to Tuskegee. But now when they look at the facilities at Miles and what Miles has built, that's where they're going. Correct. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Especially when you're competing in the state of Alabama.
Exactly.
With all the programs in the state of Alabama. And think about this, Brian. The SEC champ resides in the state of Alabama. The SWAC champ resides in the state of Alabama.
What are you trying to say, Drew? You trying to say Alabama is now the cradle of college football?
I wasn't done. The SIAC champ resides in the state of Alabama. What I'm trying to say, not that they're the cradle of football, they haven't passed Florida, they haven't passed Texas and California, but when it comes to recruiting, when you have 3 other schools with conference or national championships in your state and your facilities are not up to par, you lose the arms rate real fast. That's what my point is.
Okay. Players of the year, preseason player, offensive player of the year was D'Angelo Durham of Savannah State. Running back, rushed over 1,000 yards, number 2 in the SIAC on just 192 attempts. Led the SIAC with 12 touchdowns. Preseason defensive player of the year was Mitchell Smiley of Miles. Led the Golden Bears in tackles for loss. Was 2nd in sacks. One of only 2 players in the SIAC in 2019 to finish in the top 10 in tackles for loss, and sacks. So a linebacker needs no other introduction. That Miles's defense will be pretty good. A couple of quick questions before we get out of the SIAC talk, Drew. I'm gonna give you some. I got 5 questions here for you, rapid fire for you. You remember the young man from Morehouse, Demetrius Lofton?
Yes.
2019 All-American as a sophomore. Where is he? I'm being dead serious. I hope I'm not saying anything that like tragically something happened. I could not find where he's at. I was digging all across. So if I pray that nothing's ill happened to.
He's playing
Mr.
somewhere
Lofton.
We just don't know where.
I don't think he's at Morehouse though. Yeah, I don't believe he's at Morehouse this year. But then again, I don't think the website, the athletic roster is up to date. So I could be wrong. If I'm off base here, you guys just correct me. I'll apologize. I hope nothing bad happened. But he's one of the guys that I really want. I was disappointed for him last year that he didn't get a chance to play in 2020. Okay, is Savannah State built for a historic season in 2021, Drew?
Yes, they are. Now, if you're saying they're going to blow through the East like they did last year, or last time they played, no. But they do have enough to win it. I don't think they were going undefeated in the East again.
What is their ceiling in terms of playoffs?
Savannah State?
Yeah, are they playoff contender?
If they run that same type of quirky offense, and it's quirky because we don't see it anymore,
The pistol shotgun, what is it? The
pistol
pistol
option.
triple option.
Yeah.
Pistol triple option. Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably got one more year, and then everybody's going to catch up to it, and you're going to have to change it.
All right. Next question. While we are praising Savannah State, we should not forget about what Charlie Jackson did at Kentucky State in 2019, going from winless to 7-3, beat 2 FCS teams, including Jackson State. Is Kentucky State a contender for the title in 2021?
Not as long as Miles and Tuskegee play like they normally play.
Okay. Speaking of Tuskegee, can Tuskegee and Albany State restore their dominance in the West and East, respectively?
No and no.
Well said. Okay, last question. How long can the SIAC go with uneven division formats? You've got 8 in the East, 5 in the West. Help me make sense.
It's going to have to get solved. There are 15 total institutions in the SIAC. So what they come up with, how they come up with it, it's going to be interesting. For football, since we're talking about football, you've got 6 in the East, 5 in the West. Right now, you've got the other 2 that are sitting out there. Allen goes to the East, natural. Edward Waters, even though they're playing the West schedule right now, they should be in the East because geographically they are the easternmost school in the SIAC. But they can keep them in the West until they become a full member. So if you add those 2 schools to the East, you've got to shift at least 2 teams. 1, if not 2 teams to the West. Because that gives you got 11, that gives you 13. So if you got 5 right now, you have to shift at least 1. You have to go 7-6.
Okay, hold on. Why not shift the 2 Atlanta schools west?
You could. Or
I mean, when you break
you
down
could
the map,
shift the 2 South Georgia schools, being Albany and Fort Valley. But you need to shift 2 schools together.
Well, no, hold on. Think about the fact that you have Kentucky State, Central State, and Lane all north of Atlanta. To me, it makes no sense to move the South Georgia teams into the West when they would have to drive by Atlanta.
But you actually don't have to drive by Atlanta, but
well, they have to at least go north, right?
Yeah, and realistically, for the Atlanta teams, you catch Miles, Lemoyne, basically down 20 to 22 for Lemoyne. You pick up 22 in Birmingham. Going up north, they catch 75, which takes them to Kentucky State and to Central State. Straight down 85 to Tuskegee. So, yeah, it would make sense to keep the 2 Atlanta teams together and move them over. What's going to be interesting is what they do for the other sports, such as basketball, volleyball, and softball, baseball. Are they going to break them up into 3-5 team pods? Or they going to still try to keep that even match?
All right. Who do you have coming out winning the SIAC? Can Miles three-peat?
Yes.
All right. I'll leave it at that. Let's jump over quickly to the MEAC and Big South. The predicted order of finish in the MEAC from 1 to 6. You had South Carolina State coming in with 5 first-place votes. Norfolk State in second with a couple of first-place votes. North Carolina Central came in third. Well, actually had this is crazy. Everybody, I don't know why everybody got first place votes. I don't know what people are thinking.
They voted for themselves.
I thought you couldn't do that, but anyway.
You vote for me, I'll vote for you. You know that old high school stuff.
Yeah, North Carolina Central got 2 first place votes. They're picked 3rd. Delaware State 4th with a 1 first place vote. Morgan State 5th with 1 first place vote. Howard 6th with 1 first place vote. Yeah, I bet you it makes, Howard, Morgan, Delaware, you guys must have voted for yourselves there. I can't understand you vote. I don't know. It seems weird to me. But anyway.
That means the coaches voted for themselves. The SID voted for who they thought was going to really win it.
Yeah, many people already assuming or with the thought South Carolina State, Norfolk State are the 2 cream of the crops. I tell you, Drew, what's interesting about the MEAC is their non-conference, because with the fact that you have a 16 conference, that means you play 5 conference games. In an 11-game season, your non-conference schedule is more weighted. You play more non-conference games than conference games. I don't think that happens in too many leagues for too many teams.
So the question with that, Brian, can the MEAC get a team into the playoffs with that heavy non-conference schedule?
Here's the thing. Here's the one team that plays a legit. Now, I just looked at the top 4 here. South Carolina State plays 1 FCS school. FBS, excuse me. They travel to Clemson.
Okay. Check.
Other than that, they play 3 schools from the SWAC: Alabama A&M, Bethune. Both of those games. Well, they're at Alabama A&M. They host Bethune. They travel to FAMU. Then they also host North Carolina A&T. So among HBCUs, those are 4. I mean, look.
That's basically a traditional HBCU schedule.
It is, and that's a slobber knocker of a non-conference schedule right there. Right. I think
who has the best
3-1. What were you going? Well, I was going to say, hold on. South Carolina State's got also a game against New Mexico State, but that's an FCS school as well. So they are the only ones that really play that don't have a Division II or an NCCA team. I mean, Norfolk State, they play a Division II school, and they play the NCCA Virginia Lynchburg. Central plays Winston-Salem, Division II. Morgan State, really from just strength of schedule, they're playing teams out of the NEC. So in terms of competition-wise, I mean, I don't know. Morgan State should be able to get some wins. If they can't get wins against those teams in the NEC, then they're in trouble. So, what was your? So I just wanted to point that out. But go ahead with your question. You were going to ask.
You've got the schedule right there in front of you. Let's assume South Carolina State is the BI representative Celebration Bowl.
Yeah.
Do any of the other 5 teams have a schedule that's strong enough to get them into the FCS playoffs?
Central. I mean, short of Norfolk State knocking off Toledo or Wake Forest.
But does the Wake Forest game count in the FCS rankings?
What? I'm sure they should. They would. Yeah, they're Division I.
Yeah, but just like for Division II, those FCS games do not count in the ranking.
Yeah, but that's Division II versus Division I, though. This is legitimate Division I. I mean, look, we can. I don't remember because it's been 2 years. I don't either.
Yeah,
I don't either. But if Norfolk State beats a Toledo or Wake Forest, you best believe they're going to get some consideration in the rankings. No doubt.
Okay. Now, my question, Brian, is Dawson Odom's that much of an impact where Norfolk should be preseason number 2?
Given what they have coming back, I mean, if you take a look at the number of players that they have on the preseason watch list, or I'm sorry, on their conference prediction. I mean, this is a loaded squad. I mean, you've got a quarterback, a running back on the first team preseason offense, wide receiver, tight end, 2 offensive linemen. Nobody else in the conference has that many guys on offense. I mean, that's 6 guys. 6 of the 11 on the first team are from your school. Then you go on the defensive side of the ball. 3 of the 4 on the front line are from your school, and they're all seniors or redshirt seniors. Then you go, they've got a linebacker. Special teams seems to be well regarded. This is a veteran ball club. This Norfolk State team is really made up of a lot of seniors, redshirt seniors. It would be a disappointment for Norfolk State not to win the conference. I'll be honest with you. It really is. It'd be a disappointment. So I don't know how they will fare against Toledo or Wake Forest, but I think they should walk into those games with a level of confidence. There shouldn't be any apprehension about, going into Toledo and Wake Forest. And then the rest of their non-conference, you got ECSU, St. Francis from out of the NEC, you got Hampton, and then you got Virginia Union Lynchburg. So it's sort of an uneven non-conference where you got 2 FBS, 2 FCS, and 2 sub-FCS teams. I don't know what you make of that,
It's going to be interesting.
I just think, I mean, and for Norfolk State, the way the schedulers did the schedule, I mean, look at this.
It's almost more beneficial if South Carolina State does not win the MEAC. They've got a schedule better suited to go to the FCS playoffs.
Look, South Carolina State, if that non-conference schedule holds, if they end up beating, I mean, I'm just going to go between A&M, Bethune, FAMU, A&T. Let's just say they'll probably lose to Clemson, right? They can't lose to New Mexico State. But among those 4 HBCU teams, let's say they go 2-2. Then they end up with 3 losses overall, 8-3 record, 8-3 for South Carolina State, and that means they run the table in the MEAC. 8-3, that's a strong team. I mean, they would go to the Celebration Bowl.
Yes.
But damn, I mean, that's a team that might be top 15 ranked going into the Celebration Bowl. I mean, they would almost look that last game of the year, November 20th, between South Carolina State at Norfolk State. Let's say both teams are running the table, right? Let's say Norfolk State wins that game and goes to the MEAC Celebration Bowl. A 3-loss South Carolina State team goes to the playoffs. I don't know who, but again, think about what I said. Who are they playing in that non-conference? I mean, that's 6. That is by far. I can't think of anybody who has a tougher non-conference schedule than South Carolina State. That's absolutely brutal. The good thing is it's not all away. They host Bethune, they host A&T, they travel to A&M, they travel to both A&Ms. So I mean I just think that's a hell of a schedule that South Carolina State has in front of you. But look, if anybody, Buddy Pugh, if anybody can do it, that's that team, Buddy Pugh. A couple of key games within the MEAC, I think, Drew, that people ought to pay attention to. How about September? Obviously, not talking about the MEAC SWAC Challenge. Obviously, that's week 0. How about Bowie State traveling to Delaware State week 1? You talk about a Bowie State team that has not lost a regular season game
in 2 years
since 2018.
Yes,
I think is what we can say officially.
Yes.
Going to Dell State. Hampton and Howard playing in D.C. at Audi Field, 20,000 seat soccer stadium. That game should be sold out. If that game's not sold out, I'd be disappointed. Winston-Salem State taking on North Carolina Central. They haven't played since 2010. Winston-Salem State won that game. I guess those teams had played each other for almost every year for at least a good 10-year stretch plus. And then the series kind of came to an end when North Carolina Central moved up into, I think actually they had already been up. So that series just kind of came to an end. Of course, you got Central and A&T playing on week 4. Hampton and Norfolk State. There's a Chesapeake Bay rival. What's that? Battle of the Bay, I think it is, something like that. I love the fact that South Carolina State is mixing it up with Bethune and A&T and FAMU. It's just like, we can't quit you. It's like, I'm sorry, you guys may have left, but we can't quit you. We may ruin your regular season bid for a Black College National Championship.
You know what the young kids would say or something about like that?
What's that?
That's my cheat.
Is that what they say? Oh my God.
When you got that one on the side, that's my cheat. They can't get it up. That's my cheat right there.
I got you. All right. So I also want to make a quick mention. So that's the MEAC. Anything you want to add about the MEAC before I make a quick mention about the Big South and A&T and Hampton?
No, I was going to say that let's do this quick break. Come back with A&T, Hampton, and your rent on the Circle City class.
Oh, wow. All right. We'll be back right after these words. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. We'll be back right after these words.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Can I get the now bar, please? $1. Have a good one. Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
True Black Essentials is a retail opportunity to bring black businesses under one roof where every product on every shelf in every aisle will be black owned and black produced by people all over the world. Statistics show that the $1.3 trillion of spending power that we have as black people can easily be turned into each black person having $2 million if we were to shop black for 2 years. So True Black Essentials will launch an e-commerce store on November 1st, 2020. But we will open up brick and mortar stores in Atlanta, New Orleans, Charlotte, Houston, and Jacksonville, with the very first store opening in Atlanta, June 19, 2021.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
It's like a loot machine. All around town.
Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. here. We're into overtime because obviously, you know, we lied to you. We told you it'd be an hour show.
We tried. We didn't lie. We tried.
We did. We honestly did try. We just finished talking about the SIAC and the MEAC in that last segment. Want to give a quick mention to the Big South, of course, more so specifically North Carolina A&T and Hampton. The Aggies came in preseason ranked number 3 in the Big South. Hampton number 7. This is an 18 football league. A&T comes in 3rd behind Monmouth, who received 16 of the 18 first place votes. Kennesaw State, located right outside of Atlanta, northern Atlanta, came in 2nd. It also happens that now we talk about why A&T made the move to Big South, and whether you know, I don't know if, look, we can debate all day as to whether the Big South is better than the SWAC. I'm not really sure it is. I don't think it is. You know, but in terms of perception by pollsters, not one SWAC team is ranked in the top 25 of the Stats Perform FCS top 25, but you do have Monmouth of the Big South coming in at 13, Kennesaw State 19, and North Carolina A&T at 25. So 3 teams from out of that conference, and so when you look at it from that level, I understand why the perception there may not always be reality, but the perception seems to be feeding the support behind A&T making that move, and now they're ranked.
The reality is the SWAC has not beaten any FCS teams in the past.
That's the hardcore
5
truth.
years.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
That's
the problem.
why you don't see any SWAC teams ranked. And
exactly,
the MEAC teams have dominated among the HBCUs at the Division I level. Henceforth, when A&T switches over from the MEAC to a non-HBCU conference, they're going to continue that. And A&T has beaten other FCS, including SWAC teams.
Right. Yep. Well said. Well said. Yep. Whether it be Bethune beating SWAC teams, you had South Carolina State beating FCS other teams. So, yeah, I mean, that's the disappointing thing. So
the SWAC needs to start off by beating the 13th team in the SWAC.
Oh, yeah.
McNeese.
Yeah, well, that falls on the shoulders of is it Southern this year that plays McNeese State?
You know,
or is it
McNeese
Grambling?
always picks up 2 SWAC teams on the schedule.
Yeah, so that's where it needs to start. You need to take out that now 13th member in McNeese State, and you got to end that streak. Somebody has to.
Yes.
Of course, A&T in a prime spot to if they can. Let's be realistic. It'll be interesting to see whether how A&T fares against Monmouth. Actually, a better way of putting it, how does Monmouth deal with A&T and the speed that we would perceive North Carolina A&T to have? I'll be honest. I understand. I do know North Carolina A&T is going into this season with a quarterback question.
Yeah.
I mean, the quarterback from Celebration Bowl, I believe it was Carter was his name, who had served his time behind Lamar Raynard. He's not there. So this is a new generation. This is a reset at the quarterback position for A&T. Yes, Jermaine Martin is there. We know what he can do. Some of the defensive standouts have graduated. Now, they'll tell you they've reloaded. I get it. So let's just see.
Yeah.
And I think when we see them, and I'm just kind of looking here at their first game, when they travel to Furman in week 1 against an FCS, and we talked about it, there's your test. I mean, they've beaten other FCSs before, PWI FCSs. Go beat Furman right off the bat.
Well, you know the question that I have for A&T, Brian? It all revolves around atmosphere. When they go to a Furman or a Kennesaw State or a Monmouth, will they be as hyped and amped up as they will when they go on the road and travel to a Tallahassee or travel to Central or go to Atlanta? Will they have that same feeling on the road? Because you got to realize, even when you are the visiting team and you go into that HBCU atmosphere, it still gets you going, even though you know you're the hated dog. And outside of the greatest homecoming on earth, will A&T fans come out to see them play those historically white institutions?
Well,
that's why I say atmosphere is going to be key this year. And can they still get hype with the change of atmosphere?
I think it'll be interesting I think it is interesting that they scheduled, maybe it just fell this way, but Monmouth, who is the, conference favorite, is their homecoming opponent. So you talk about introducing your fan base to this new conference. You talk about introducing that Monmouth team to your fan base. That's going to be a huge game on October 30th in North Carolina, in Greensboro. Here comes Monmouth, the defending champs, preseason ranked 13th is what I said.
Yes.
Now they come in at North Carolina A&T for homecoming. So you're gonna get I don't know if you're gonna get the 20,000 for all those other games. You will get 25 plus for the greatest homecoming on earth, as they call it. You will get folks for that, and they will show up.
Now my thing is, Brian, advice to Monmouth for homecoming at A&T.
You're giving advice to Monmouth?
Yes. Very much needed advice for Monmouth for homecoming at A&T. Leave the band at home. No one wants to hear Flight of the Bumblebee.
That's racist. You don't know if Monmouth is going to be playing the Flight of the Bumblebee, Drew. Come on now.
But at homecoming, you can just get the whole 20 minutes to A&T.
Hey, don't sleep. Monmouth has been practicing neck all summer. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to let you know. Those bands in the Big South, they've been practicing neck all off season, all summer, probably even dating back to the spring. You watch when they pull it out, it's gonna blow your mind. You folks, you haters are gonna be like, holy cow! No, they're not playing neck.
Yeah, when we see Dr. Lee get out there on the field, we know something. Anyway, Brian, I'm ready to hear your rant.
All right, so let's kind of wrap up the show a little bit. I've got to make a quick mention about the Circle City Classic, which this year Benedict and Kentucky State are scheduled to play in that contest. I've lost my page in terms of the actual date on that game.
Isn't it last Saturday in September?
It might be the last. It's usually either the last Saturday or the last of September or the 1st of October. Given the schedule, actually, hold on. Let me see. I got my SIAC grid here. So let's see. Who did I say?
Kentucky State.
It's actually the last. Yeah, actually September 25th. So that's week 4.
Yeah, that's the last Saturday in October.
Saturday in September. Yes. Okay. So look, this classic, the classic that basically raised me up on HBCU football. They introduced me to Jerry Rice against Eddie Robinson, Mississippi Valley State, who came to Indianapolis 2 consecutive years in its inaugural year. Then it introduced me to Billy Joe and Florida A&M in year number 3. I fell in love with Florida A&M. Despite getting whooped 41-3 by Billy Joe in 1986, there was no comparison to seeing the Marching 100 that year. And then 2 years later, when they were in a 10-10 tie against Jackson State. And after that, this classic would bring in 60,000 people into what was then RCA, the RCA Dome in Indianapolis. Probably one of the greatest MEAC games ever played was in 1996 between FAMU and Hampton. Went 6 overtimes. FAMU winning 59-58. I remember being at that game. And then something happened in the last 10 years where no longer was it attractive for your FCS schools. Matter of fact, prior to 2018, now 2018 you had Hampton versus Bethune Cookman. That was actually a great game. You had who was the quarterback from Howard at that time? Cam's brother. Kalen Newton, leading Bethune Cookman, or leading Howard to a win over Bethune Cookman. I think we had a 28-28 halftime score, if I recall correctly. An outstanding first half of offense. But in the 4 years prior to that, you had literally, Drew, this was the matchup for 4 consecutive years. Kentucky State versus Central State for 4 consecutive years prior to that. I don't understand that. Then you had in 2019, you had Kentucky State against Jackson State. The year before, a winless Kentucky State under new head coach Charlie Jackson beating Jackson State, an FCS team being beaten by a Division II team. A historic game. And so now what you have is you have an SIAC matchup where, again, Kentucky State makes their, let me count it out here, 4, 5, 6 of the last 7 Circle City Classics have featured Kentucky State. And I know Frankfort, Kentucky is close, but come on. I mean, what are we doing in Indianapolis? What is Indiana Black Expo doing? Why can't Indiana Black Expo get with the sports commission? I mean, here's the city of Indianapolis, a city that is home to the Final Four, the Big Ten championships, this year, the college football playoff championship games, major events come to Indianapolis. Why can't we get a pair of premier HBCU programs? With all respect to Benedict and Kentucky State, okay? Good teams, good programs. The SIAC, very historic. I get it. But how come no one is thinking creatively enough to say, how about, and I got this idea, I can't take this idea all by myself. I mean, this was an idea that myself, got to give some credit to Mike Reed, a fellow Rattler. We were kind of kicking this out on one of the message boards or one of the Facebook groups. Imagine a 4-year or even a 6-year rotation consisting of 4 teams. Imagine these teams: Florida A&M, Tennessee State, North Carolina A&T, Hampton. You've got one school represented from pretty much each of the major conferences. Obviously, you don't have anybody from the MEAC, but maybe in the future you might add somebody. But imagine a rotation, very similar to what they do in basketball. When they have this thing called the Champions Classic, Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, and Michigan State. And they just rotate. Every year it's a new game. But you've got 4 of the premier programs in one building. They play a back-to-back doubleheader, and they just rotate it every 3 or 4 years. I mean, imagine a cycle like that for a 4-year period. I mean, in year 1, you could have FAMU versus Tennessee State. Year 2, A&T versus Hampton. Year 3, Tennessee State versus A&T. Year 4, Hampton versus FAMU. Year 5, FAMU versus A&T. Year 6, Tennessee State versus Hampton. No conference games, nothing on the line for conference. But look, you're talking about 55,000, minimum 50. You're going to hit close to 60 in Lucas Oil Stadium for these games. Bring the bands. Make the guarantee worth it for these schools to come out. Give them $1 million each. The money's in the coffers somewhere. Think about the business that'll be coming to the city of Indianapolis from these fan bases. We know FAMU travels. Tennessee State, 4 hours away. A&T, we recognize how at Aggie Pride they will travel. Hampton travels as well. 4 great fan bases that will come to the city of Indianapolis and rebuild this once great historic classic. Going into year number 36, it deserves more. Again, all respect to Kentucky State, Benedict, the SIAC. I don't mean to sling mud at their way, but this is really a call to action to the city of Indianapolis, the leaders of Indiana Black Expo, the city event organizers in the city of Indianapolis. It's time to get back to owning the best classic featuring non-traditional rivals. Again, I'm not talking about the Bayou, not talking about the Magic City, not talking about the Florida Classic where you have a static opponent every year. I'm talking, or even the Southern Heritage Classic. In fact, I'm talking new teams every year. Let's find the money, get the television contract set up for these teams to come. I don't care if it's on Fox, Paramount Plus, Netflix, AOL, Amazon, whoever, Amazon Prime. Somebody come up with the money to make this happen. But it's time for the Circle City Classic to reclaim its place as the premier football classic for HBCU football. I'm done, Drew. Thanks for the time.
I'm dropping my mic as we go.
All right, that's going to do it for the Sports Wrap. If you're watching us, make sure you follow us in all the spots on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at MyBCSN1. Make sure you download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app, MyJBN, MyBCSN. There you see Drew and me at DRB365 is where you can find me on Twitter. At BCSN Drew is where you can find Drew. Be a part of the BCSN Pod Zone everywhere. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, everywhere that you can download and listen to all of our shows. The family of the Black College Sports Network continues to grow. We want to be there for you, giving you all kinds of coverage, unique views, unique perspectives, not only from schools, but in Black college athletics in general. So that's going to do it for this show. Thank you again. Website, mybcsn.net. Drew, thank you for giving me that moment to rant. I appreciate it. Woosah, I appreciate
That's
that.
why I put it at the end, because I knew you was not going to be able to stop.
Well said. All right, for that's A.D. Drew, I'm Bryan Fulford. Thanks for listening. We want to hear from you. We hope to hear from you. Until the next time we get together and do it again, peace and love. You guys be well. Mask up. Get vaccinated if you can. God bless.
I'll holler.
But eat 'em up, you stay hard.